Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, I don't blame you. You can see it and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. I have been waiting for this for quite some time. Unarguably the most intriguing of the third generation Vacheron Constantin Overseas families. It bowed at SIHH 2016, but it's only now in March of 2019 that I'm seeing my first example. A boutique exclusive. This is the Vacheron Constantin Overseas Ultra-Thin, reference 2000. A watch 40 millimeters in gray gold, white gold. You can see it is ultra-thin. 7.6 millimeters thick. It's a half millimeter thinner than a Royal Oak 15202. The timepiece from lug to lug, very wearable. 48.5 millimeters, and it sits limpet-like, almost flush to the wrist. Once it's strapped down, it sits as though it's only about 4 or 5 millimeters thick. It's extraordinary and easy to wear. It has an ergonomic trick that the other Overseas models don't enjoy, and that is the ability, unique among the third generation Overseas, to pull the bracelet straight down as you could on the second generation watch. So the fit on a small wrist is superb, and there's no virtual flare or fight to the bracelet. Let's get super close, give ourselves a little bit more light, and talk about this bracelet. You get all of the features that you would enjoy on a standard Generation 3 Overseas with the Ultra-Thin. You have a bracelet that features a quick release system, and you can just pull it off just like that. The watch also comes with a rubber strap and a leather strap, and the quick release means you can easily cycle between them. You'll also appreciate that every individual link of the bracelet in this on both sides removable, so you can really tailor the side and just nail each side and the total sizing. You'll see the clasp also in gray gold with trigger release. Close it. It's nice low in profile. Features a Maltese cross where the two sides meet. Again, you can just get a perfect sizing with this bracelet, and it's a wonderful piece. Underneath, you can see there are rounded channels between the links to avoid pinching skin or pulling hair. Plenty of daylight showing too, so it will vent the wrist. 50 meters water resistant with a screw down crown. This is a swimmable watch. If there's one aesthetic shortcoming characteristic of the second and third generation Overseas, I love both, but it's the bulk and sheer of the case band. Problem solved. Slim as a razor. This is as elegant as it gets, and it fills a much needed hole inside the Vacheron Overseas lineup. There was a much needed model for the first and second generation Overseas that could go head to head with a traditional ultra-thin 15202 Royal Oak or a 5711 Nautilus, and that much needed plug is finally here to fill the gap. It's actually more elegant than the Nautilus or the Royal Oak, as it simply dispenses with the date to clean up and balance the dial and render the case, and thus allow the movement to render the watch considerably thinner than the 5711 or the Royal Oak. You can see that there's a little bit of a plinth, as you'll find on the other third generation Overseas, a little bit of a round platform beneath the Maltese cross bezel, and you can see that there's a satin finish. There's also a satin finish in the recesses of the Maltese cross, but all of high polish on the tops. The dial is gorgeous. I'm going to do my best to get close. It is an anthracite sunburst, and this is the benefit of starting with a clean slate and not having to keep up any prior tradition as with the Nautilus or the Royal Oak. Vacheron could decide what its ultra-thin Overseas would look like, starting with removal of the date, but continuing with the use of a few well-chosen navy blue accents. The 5-minute marks outboard. You also appreciate the fact that the watch has no center seconds. The watch features all applique white gold indices, white gold hands at center, white gold Maltese cross, a sensational sunburst anthracite dial base. It's somewhere between silver and gray, and with a metallic grain, it's highly reactive. Vacheron also added a high-polished chapter ring that encircles the hour track outboard and adds luster and glint and gleam to the dial. Turn it all over, and one of the great things about this watch is I can easily reveal the movement. Now, I normally say that a watch can only be used for swimming when 50 meters if it has a screw-down crown, which is why a 15400 or a 15500 Royal Oak is swimmable, but the Jumbo is not. Well, this is slimmer than the Jumbo, and it's swimmable like the conventional Royal Oaks. Get as close as I can, improve our focus. You can see a 22 karat gold hand-engraved winding mass featuring black polished screws. It's the caliber 1120/3 based on the old Jaeger-LeCoultre 920 Bausch that powered the original Vacheron 222 sports watch, the first generation Nautilus 3700 Jumbo, and the 5402 first generation Royal Oak, which is to say this movement has real heritage in this ultra-thin sports watch class dating back to the early 1970s. It beats away at 19,800 vibrations per hour. It is an anachronistic beat rate of 2.75 hertz. It has a 40-hour power reserve. It pivots on 36 gems, and it is Geneva hallmark finished. You also note one of the quirks of its engineering that allows it to be as thin as it is, and it's under 2.6 millimeters thick, but it has a full annular ring around the movement. You can see the rotor is actually just weighted on one side. The rotor goes all the way around, and it rolls on 4 corners, 4 ruby bearings. So there are 4 ruby bearings, one every 90 degrees, that support every side of that annular rotor so that it doesn't crash into the base plate, and you can run the rotor itself in the same plane as the other bridges. That was JLC's trick to achieve an ultra-thin movement back in 1967 when the 920, commissioned by AP, Patek, and Vacheron, first debuted. Here you can see mirrored anglage on the edge of every bridge, as well as within the jewel and screw countersinks. There is perfectly aligned linear Côte de Genève across the bridges, which you can see it's richly crested, dark on one side, light on the other. It's the real abrasive wheel kind, not stamped. Appreciate the straight graining on some of the wheels, such as the ratchet wheel and the crown wheel. The screw heads are all black polished with chamfered slots. This is as good as it gets, and there is an engine-turned perlage on the base plate, which you can see to good effect. Geneva hallmark stamped. That has not been the case of every 1120 Vacherons ever made, though in the 21st century most of them have been. So historically, this is as good as it gets, and the good old days are now. Vacheron never had a watch like this for the first 2 generations of the Overseas, and to find anything like it, you have to go back to the late 70s and Jorg Heisig's 222. Well, VC making up for lost time. This, reference 2000, is the Overseas Generation 3 Ultra-Thin, all in white gold and a boutique exclusive. See it and make it yours on the watch box. Overseas Generation 3 Ultra-Thin by night.